what are the challenges? Right. Now, the one of the important challenge, or one of the challenges that the students or the test takers, they face when it comes to these type of question, they are overthinking. Right, they are overthinking. When it comes to decide the statements whether they are true or false or not given. Right. Example: a lot of test takers think their own knowledge, will help. Right. Remember, your own knowledge will not help. Right. You can't decide whether the statements are true or false not given based on what you know. Right. So it's not going to help you. Right. So uh, you should depend on the context. You should depend on the text. Means you need to rely on the passage. So only the passage is important, not your own knowledge. So why people, the students think, okay, so I know about this information. I'm familiar with this particular topic, so I can decide. Okay, this is true, or this is false, or this is not given. Right? No. So don't rely on what you know. You should stick to what's written in the passage. Means you should, or you must, stick to the passage. So remember, don't overthink when deciding whether the statements are true or false, not given, but you need to stick to the passage. Stick to what's given to you. Stick to what's written in the passage. Right. So that's important. Now let's talk about why overthinking happens. Right. Example: candidates often bring in outside knowledge, for example, things that they already know about history, science, or the world. Right. So don't bring in outside knowledge. Don't bring in outside knowledge. Right. When you decide the statements, when you choose your answer. Right. That's important. Right. So example: IELTS reading is not a general knowledge test. It's not a general knowledge test. So the IELTS reading, it's not a test which is going to test your general knowledge. Right. It's going to check whether you can understand, whether you can interpret the passage. Means you need to locate the specific, you should have the skills to locate the specific information, and you should be able to understand, and you should be able to match the meaning and interpret the passage. Right. So you need to able to understand and decide whether the statements are, when it comes to choosing your answers. Right. So if you rely on what you know instead of what's written in the passage, there is a risk. Right. So if you rely on what you know instead of what's written in the passage, you risk choosing the wrong answer. Means there is a chance to choose wrong answer. So remember, don't choose the wrong answer by relying on what you know already. Right. So instead, you should be you should depend on what's written in the passage. Right. Now look at the example information, example passage. So our passage says the Pacific information. Look at this. This is our passage. The Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on the earth. So the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on earth. It covers more area than all the land combined. Right. So now let's look at the first statement. This is our first statement. So the statement says the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on earth. So you can match the words, exact words they have used, largest ocean and the largest ocean, and they are talking about, they are comparing all the other oceans on earth. So because this is the largest ocean, the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on earth, so the same information, so the statement matches the passage, so you can decide true. Right. Now let's look at the second statement. The second statement says the Pacific Ocean is deeper than Atlantic Ocean. So there is a comparison between Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. So if you look at our passage, there is no information about Atlantic Ocean, right? There is no comparison, but there is comparison with all the other oceans. Remember, the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on earth. That means, so this sentence in the passage compares all the other oceans on earth, not particularly one particular ocean. So it's talk about all the oceans on earth. So when it comes to the largest ocean, so the Pacific Ocean is the only one, the largest ocean. It's the largest ocean on earth, right? But here there is comparison with a different ocean, which is Atlantic. So there is no information. Passage, it doesn't mention the depth, right? So there is no information about the depth of a different ocean, right? So they are talking, the passage only talks about the largest ocean on earth. Right. And what about so which one you can decide for the second one? Not given. But what about third one? The Pacific Ocean is smaller than Indian Ocean. So there is another comparison, a particular ocean, right? When it comes to whether they're small or large, right? So already the passage says the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on earth. But here, the sentence says the Pacific Ocean is smaller than the Indian Ocean, right? So the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean. So the Pacific is not a smaller ocean. So the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean. So you can see the statement contradicts the passage. So you can decide false, right? Why we decided for the second one not given? Because there is no information about the depth, right? The Pacific Ocean is deeper than. There is no information, talking about the passage doesn't talk about. The passage doesn't mention about the depth of the oceans. So it talks about the scale, the size, the largest or the smallest. So it talks about only the largest ocean. So the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean. So for the second one, the statement talks about deep of the ocean, so deeper than the Atlantic Ocean. So there is no information about depth. And the third one, it directly contradicts the passage, because it directly says the Pacific Ocean is smaller, right? It's smaller, but passage says the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on earth. Okay, so you should be able to decide the difference. You should be able to decide or identify the difference between not given and false, right? Now let's talk about where overthinking misleads you. If you know from outside knowledge that the Pacific Ocean is also the deepest ocean, you might wrongly mark the statement 2 as true. Example, right, based on your outside knowledge, right? So if you look at our second statement, you already know about this, the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is deeper, which is the deepest ocean, or the Pacific Ocean is deeper than the Atlantic Ocean. So that is true. This is based on our own knowledge, based on your own knowledge. So if you rely on your own knowledge, you will decide, okay, this is true, because actually this is true based on the outside knowledge, right? But based on the passage, there is no information. There is no information about depth, right? I'm talking about depth, right? So there is no information about depth. So we can't decide this is true. We can decide this is not given, because no information about depth. But if you remember, if you know from outside knowledge that the Pacific Ocean is also the deepest ocean, or it's one of the deepest ocean, or maybe that is the only deepest ocean, we don't know. But based on your outside knowledge, you might wrongly mark the statement 2 as true, right? since the passage doesn't mention the depth. Since the passage doesn't mention depth of the oceans, the correct answer is not given. So this shows why only the passage matters. The passage is important, not your background knowledge, right? So you can't rely on your background knowledge. Right. So what we learned in this lesson, so when the statement agrees with the passage, we will decide true and we will write T. And when the statement contradicts the passage, we will write false, means you're going to write F on your answer sheet. And when it comes to there is no information, right, about the particular statement in the passage, there is no information in the passage regarding the statement, then the passage is silent. So you can decide not given. So you will write NG, right? So even if you know the fact outside IELTS, means even if you know the fact outside IELTS, you must ignore the facts. You must ignore your own knowledge unless the passage states it, right? So you must ignore your outside knowledge. You must ignore your your own factual information, which you got from different resources. You need to you must ignore them unless the passage states it. So you can't consider. So you need to depend on only on the passage. You have to depend on the passage